Thank you, President. I rise to speak on the Adult Parole Board Annual Report for 2018-19, which presents a wide range of information relating to parole in Victoria. From my perspective, there is a lot to say about the report, some of it positive, some of it negative. Naturally, I do accept that decisions around whether and when to grant parole are usually complex and fraught with difficulty. And whilst I would say that there have been many errors in the granting of parole in Victoria's history, I do want to acknowledge the turnaround in a number of measures since the Callanan Review recommendations began to be implemented. The report shows 81% of Victorian prisoners successfully completed their parole in 2018 to 2019. That's a notable improvement on previous figures, although quite obviously I would always like that number to be 100%. As part of that overall improvement, there's also been a welcome reduction in those convicted of committing a serious violent offence and/or sex offence whilst on parole. However, these trends in themselves still fail to alleviate all of the concerns that I have, and that my party has a number of the processes governing parole in this state. Among those concerns, and as I signalled in a motion last year, I especially want changes that tighten conditions so that parole for sexual and other violent offenders, particularly recidivist offenders, is not granted where those offenders would reside in a mobile phone black spot area or outside of a 10-kilometre radius from a police station. I will note that I have great reservations about too many people in the sexual and other violent offender categories being granted parole. Full stop. But I believe these two new conditions represent common sense and would genuinely facilitate more effective supervision of those potentially still very dangerous individuals who the Adult Parole Board does choose to release. They're changes that especially reflect and address issues that led to the torture and murder of Karen Chikudi in Wangaratta in 2016. And if either of these two new conditions can't be satisfied, then parole simply should not be granted. I intend to formally pursue these changes later in this term. In this statement today, I also want to take issue with another highly questionable recent decision to grant parole. I won't delve into too many specifics of this case for fear of potentially compromising it in any way. However, it involves a violent perpetrator with an extensive and repugnant criminal history who has extraordinarily continued to be granted early releases on multiple occasions, only to reoffend almost immediately and violently and graphically, seemingly every single time. This has happened over and over again. This contradicts and undermines the work being done in the space to stamp out violence in our society. In keeping with that pattern, his most recent release was allegedly very quickly followed by a vicious attack on a young woman and an attempted robbery. This led to him facing charges of rape, attempted rape and sexual assault on multiple accounts. In the wake of these events, fear about the potential for similar further attacks also quickly spread in communities in and around the immediate area in which these alleged crimes occurred. I expect that more of the details of the history of this individual will emerge in the public domain in due course. But on the face of it, there are many people who should already be highly embarrassed about what seems to have happened repeatedly, in his case over many years. I imagine they will be even more discomforted if and when more of the details and facts come to greater public attention soon. President, I'll close by pondering aloud the question of what review, audit and evaluation processes are now followed in relation to decisions made to grant parole, especially where the relevant prisoner ultimately reoffends. I would also question how long after such reoffending it is typically taking for such reviews to begin. In the particular case about which I've just spoken, I'm left to worry that maybe no such reviews have ever been undertaken. I would hope that at least one is now initiated as a matter of urgency.